Today's video, as you can see from the caption, is an icebreaker activity for the very first session. So before we dive in, if you haven't seen my face before, this is Smiley Teacher, and if you want to stick around for more activities and lesson plans or lesson shapes in your classes, please make sure that you have subscribed. So usually my groups, it takes like whole academic year. Like we start from September to July, sometimes June. So we want to make sure that we know the students enough. So I don't know how your groups are, even though your groups maybe it takes your classes like 3 months or 1 month, it doesn't matter. It's better to get to know your students as long as you make sure that what they want to and what they expect to have in their classes. My groups are usually from 6-year-old students to 60-year-old students. So right now the activities that I'm talking about, they are suitable for teenagers or adult students. I have tried many activities from different websites, but these three ones for adult students, or I would say from B1 to C1, it works. I have designed all of these activities by myself, and maybe there are other interesting activities. I have tried some of them from different websites, but these are the one work for me. So the first one that I have designed this paper by myself in canva.com. So basically, I usually give the students my own piece of art. It doesn't mean that I want to give them something cute. That works also, but the point is they can understand they are going to write. Sometimes I don't know if you have noticed, or maybe if you are not a new teacher, you have realized sometimes they ask you, are we supposed to write? So if you give them the paper, they know that they are supposed to write. So before any kinds of activity that we have for the first session or in some sessions in future, we want to make sure that we have an example. So what is the example? This activity that I'm going to ask my students to write down between 4 to 5 sentences about themselves. This is the very first step. But before we start this session, I suggest to ask them to talk. So when they come in, just imagine they come in and they sit. So for the first time, you don't want to give them the activity, but you want to start like, can you introduce yourself? They're gonna talk about their job or maybe which grade they are if they are teenagers. So when we are done with it, by that, like maybe it takes maybe 10 minutes, because my students, they are usually shy in a very first session. But when I give them this activity, it's really icebreaker. So for this one, before I give it to them, I use my whiteboard and I write down 5 sentences about myself. So I'm gonna write, for example, number 1, I'm 31 years old. Number 2, my sister lives in England. Number 3, I have been living in Estonia for 10 years. And I'm gonna go on. And I'm gonna ask them to take time and think about which one is lie and which one is the truth. So they're gonna think about it and they're gonna say, okay, we think that one is right. And also, I write my name. Sometimes play with my name. I don't tell them my name, and then they realize that it wasn't my name or it was my name. I usually go with one lie about my life, and the 4 others are truth. But it depends, and also you can ask them to come up with two lies, or maybe, I don't know, vice versa. And right now the second step is for them that they are supposed to write. Give them some time, maybe 10 minutes. You don't need to have any kinds of monitoring, and it's a time that you just get to know each other, and give them some time, maybe 10 minutes or something. And when they are done, we are not supposed to put them in pairs or group. We're gonna ask them to start reading the sentences, because we want to make sure that all the students know each other. So for this time, they're gonna start, and all together are going to guess. And in this case, when they are laughing, they feel more comfortable in the class, and also they feel better with each other for the future activities that maybe we want to have some pair activities together. So when this step is done, this is usually my second stage or second step that I do it in my classes, and it works perfectly. You can decide on one of them, maybe you can go with one of them, but I do all these stages because it works, and it's a kind of I don't know how to put it. It's a kind of chance for you also to let them be free and let them feel confident enough to come up with their own sentences. We don't want to jump into teaching in the very first session, but we want to know that what is the level of these students that we have it. So for the future, we can design suitable lesson plans for them. These matches are from Switzerland, they're souvenir. So I usually give them to my students 5 to each student, and also I keep 5 for me. The game basically usually starts like this. I give 5 matches to each student. Right now I only have this student, Mr. Potato Head, and me. So again, we are going to talk about our life. I'm gonna explain to my students that you are going to tell me a sentence about your life, and we are going to guess if it was truth or if it was a lie. So I usually, as an example, again, I'm gonna start myself. I'm gonna say that, okay, I have lived in Thailand, and they're gonna say, no, you didn't, or whatsoever. So if more students, so right now I only have this student. If 2 students, they're gonna tell me that, okay, or among 6 students, 4 of them gonna say no, you didn't. So they're gonna get the point, okay? And for Mr. Potato Head, for example, he can say that I used to be a chef, and we're gonna say probably no, you didn't used to be, right now you are a chef. So if more students can guess the truth, so we can get the point again. And he says, yeah, I'm a chef now, I didn't used to be a chef. So it goes like that. And again, as another example that I wanted to say, for example, I'm gonna say I'm married, and the students say, yeah, you're married. And because I'm not married, I'm gonna take the point, okay? So at the end, we can realize that who won, and this is another icebreaker activity. I have played this activity with my students for maybe 4 years or something, and they all enjoyed it. It doesn't matter that your students are adult or teenagers. As far as their level is like B1 and above, they're gonna enjoy it. Last stage. Unfortunately, I don't have the perfect one right now with me. I have already printed them out and I keep them in my classes. So right now I have written it by myself, handwritten. So I want to make sure that you see. I usually give each student this size paper printed out perfectly and ask them to write their names and the other section about your expectations. I definitely ask my students what are their expectations in my classes. what they wish to have as a lesson in future. Some students, especially adult students, they care about their lessons, and sometimes some of them are marketing managers, or some of them they have different jobs that they need to use this language in their workplace. So I want to make sure that they meet their needs, and this is a kind of needs analysis that is very important in the first session that we have. And I usually file them for each of my class, and I go through them. Sometimes if I have forgotten to have that lesson in future, I can get help from them and remember that what kind of lessons they wish to have. Like maybe some students they need writing activities, and we want to make sure that we have the writing activity, and also we can talk about it, ask them to feel confident and comfortable in writing whatever expectations they have. And when they are done, you can very quickly take a look at them, and at the end of the session talk about it, that okay, what do you mean by that if you didn't understand what they have written. And at the end, you this is the time that you can ask them to ask whatever question that they have. This is actually optional if you want to talk more with your students, so you don't need to really teach in your classes each of these steps. It takes maybe some of them more than 20 minutes, depends on the group, and you don't need to teach in your on your first session, and you can just get to know your students and see that what is the level of their language. If you have any interesting icebreaker activities, please write them in comments, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.